welcome to the Daily Ramble here on Claret and Booze. My name's Gary, and I want to talk to you today about when football was fun. Because it's not fun at the moment, is it? You know, David Moyes is still here. He's still boring the arse off us. It looks like he's going to manage to bore the arse off us against Forest as well on Saturday. And meanwhile, we've got our man at the top, David Sullivan, telling us that, look, Moyes is our best option. There are no other options available. No one wants a job. Well, frankly, I call bullshit on that. And today in this video, I'm going to explain why. And give this video a watch. If you like it, please subscribe to our channel, Claret and Booze. Hit the bell notification icon and give us a like. Now, when David Sullivan comes out and says there are no options available, what he really means is there are no options that I like available. And David Sullivan, as you know, is the genius. He's the football genius who knows everything about football, knows how to select a manager. I mean, you could tell what he did with Avram Grant, where he sat on his hands, all those years. He always leaves it too late. He's leaving it too late again. He's left it too late with every manager so far. But he's really excelling himself this time. This is going back to basics. Anyway, look, he has been speaking to Rafa Benitez. It's been widely reported he's been speaking with Rafa, and Rafa has said to him, well, I'm not a mug. I'm not desperate. I'm not the David Moyes who was grateful to have the job last time you hired him because nobody else wanted him at the time. Which, if you think back, is true. He said, "I am Rafa Benitez. I deserve a longer contract. I'm looking for 3.5 years." Now, all right, I understand why Rafa is saying that. I completely understand it. I get it, but I don't agree. For once, I'm going to agree with David Sullivan on that. 3.5 years of Rafa Benitez is not what we want. It's not what we need. Half a season of Rafa Benitez, that's fine. But look, if you're going to go down and you're only going to look at options that you've looked at previously, because he's been on the verge of hiring Rafa Benitez several times before. He's always an option. We thought the other week that Sean Dyche was going to be the option. Turned out to, he's gone to Everton and he's going to save them now. But, what options do we have? What viable options do we have available to us? Instead of going out to the open market and trying to attract a manager in out of an act of desperation like Nuno Espirito Santo, who would cost $6 million to release from his current contract in the Middle East, who else is available? Well, the thing is that there are two potential options right under David Sullivan's nose. It probably won't go for either of them, but I'm going to explain why they are good options. And let's start with a potential dream team, a management dream team. Honestly, I'm only talking about until the end of the season, right? This is a quick fix to give us the best possible chance of staying up. Nothing more than that. I'm not talking about long term. So let me caveat that before I even start, right? First option I would give you is Kevin Nolan, who's got management experience, teamed up with Mark Noble, who doesn't have management experience, but this is two former captains of West Ham. One a captain as recently as last year, both of them heavily involved in the club already. Both of them know the players inside out. Now, if you remember back to when Glenn Roeder was given the job, a big factor in Glenn Roeder getting the job was players like Michael Carrick and Joey Cole at the time saying that what a fantastic coach he was, and they loved him, because that is often the relationship that a player will have, a closer relationship with the coaching staff than he will with the manager, right? That's not unusual. Now, I'm guessing that's the case with Nolan as well, because when you look at his body language and the way he acts with the players, he's always putting an arm around them. He's always doing this. So he seems to have a good, a very good familiar relationship with these players. Now, that is a good short-term advantage. Again, as we saw with Glenn Roeder in his first season, it doesn't really hold water in the long term. Because when a manager gets given a permanent job, they tend to want to suddenly behave like a manager rather than the way they behaved previously. They're no longer the coach. They're no longer your mate. So as a short-term fix, I think this would be excellent. And when you look at Nolan's management record, he's managed two clubs, Orient and Notts County. In the first one, he was given, I think, a 2.5-year contract at Leyton Orient and a 3-year contract at Notts County. And for both of those clubs, he registered as a player. In fact, I think he even put himself on the bench a few times for Leyton Orient. So these are, at the time, lower league sides who gave him a chance in management. He was very successful early on with Orient. In the end, he only lasted 4 months. But where did he leave that team? He left them 2 points outside of the playoffs. So I think there was some kind of personality clash there or whatever that ended up him making his way out of Leyton Orient. And then Notts County, he first of all saved them from relegation. He stayed there for 11 months. In 11 months, he won the League Two Manager of the Month twice. And he was really, really successful in the short period of time he was there. He got fired for losing 6 on the bounce in the end. But again, you don't know what the story was. You don't know what players he had available to him. But nonetheless, he's got lower league management experience. And I think if I draw a comparison, you remember when Trevor Brooking took over from Glenn Roeder when he got ill? Trevor Brooking was absolutely fantastic at managing in the Premier League. He understood the Premier League, right? And then for a couple of games the following season, after we got relegated, Trev managed in the Championship. Wasn't so good in the Championship, right? Which is, maybe you should say strange because Trev did actually play in Division 2 for 3 seasons. But what I'm saying is sometimes a player or a potential manager will be more suited to the environment they were a part of when they were a player. And Kevin Nolan was really always a Premier League player, and a very good one at that. He was a captain for us, a very good captain, a leader of men, same with Mark Noble. So you've got 2 leaders who could potentially come in for the last 15 games, make something happen at West Ham. Sorry, 14 games, because Moyes is going to get Forest on Saturday, right? That, to me, is a viable option. So David Sullivan, there's your freebie option. It's going to cost you hardly anything to do that. Gets my backing, would probably get the backing from most of the fans as well. That's what I'm saying. Now, that's option number 1. I'll give you option number 2. Option number 2, this will be a little bit distasteful to some of you. I understand that because of the fallout with Billy Bonds, but Harry Redknapp, age 75, has recently put himself in the frame to manage Leeds and try to keep them up on a short-term basis. Now, I am sure, 100% sure that Harry Redknapp, in putting himself out there in the market, is also putting himself in the market for the West Ham job as well. Again, he's 75. He ain't gonna need a long-term job. Give him a few months. That Harry Redknapp, who he done first of all very well with us. He spent 7 years with us. Yeah, I know he managed Tottenham. But he also had a lot of success after us. He managed Portsmouth twice for about 6 years. He managed Southampton for a year, Spurs for 4 years, QPR for 3 years. He officially retired in 2017 after having a bit of a bad experience with Birmingham. But, again, it was a basket case of a club at the time, so you can't really read much into that. So he's been out of football for the best part of 6 years, but he's never really been out of football. He's always been there, doing interviews, working on talk shows, doing all this kind of stuff. And very well that Harry Redknapp has still got enough in the tank. I've heard him speak recently. He's got enough in the tank to be able to get hold of those players. He's good at managing egos. In fact, he excels at managing egos, and we've got quite a few egos in that team at the moment. Quite a few big players. They wouldn't be too big for him to manage, that's for sure. And I think we all remember the good times under Harry Redknapp. Now, I'm not saying he's going to come in and sort of, we're going to suddenly start playing the old Harry Redknapp way of, flair, attacking, prowess, but there will be a bit of that. That Harry Redknapp, rather than try to grind out a draw like David Moyes, will try to win a game. And that's really all we ask for at the moment. And again, it's an option. It's a short-term option that wouldn't cost very much money in real terms. Yes, you'd have to fire Moyes, but you're going to have to do that anyway, Sullivan. So look, there's my 2 options. I think they're 2 real viable options. So when David Sullivan says there are no options available, I call nonsense on that. It is not. There are options available. You're just not looking in the right place, or they're not the kind of options that you want, because they frighten the life out of you. Harry Redknapp frightens the life out of you. You know, you think you're going to be blamed if you give Nolan and Noble a chance. No, you wouldn't be blamed. We'd actually, I think most fans would look at that and say, blimey, he's tried to do something a little bit radical there, and if it worked, God, that'd be a massive gold star on your name. Anyway, let's look at, very briefly before we finish, other news. And I've got some big news as well. The return of Maxwell Cornet, the man who spent the last, I don't know, 18 months now. Can't be that long. It was August the 1st, I think he got injured. 4 months he's been out, over 4 months. And he spent much of his recent time in France. He's back. He's training. Apparently he's looking sharp. That is a recipe for David Moyes to give him the last 5 minutes when we're chasing the game against Forest on Saturday. God, I look forward to it. When did football become this shit? Right? I don't know about you. When did you start watching football? What first attracted you to becoming a West Ham fan? Now, I didn't personally have a choice, nor did Nick, right? We were bred into it. You know, we got taken to West Ham. Our dad was a West Ham supporter. You know, there wasn't really much we could do about it. However, it didn't take me very long. I can't speak for Nick. I'm sure it's the same. It didn't take me very long to, you know, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years of West Ham exposure to develop an absolute love of being a West Ham fan. And you know where that love came from? I think it came from, you know, around the 1978, 79, 80, obviously the cup run, but in that the penultimate Division 2 year, you know, the year we won the FA Cup, we were actually slaughtering everybody in Division 2, and then we slaughtered everybody the following year. Then we had that cup run in the middle where we were beating teams we had no right to beat, like Everton in the semi-final, like Aston Villa, who were very good at the time, in the quarter-final. Us as a Division 2 side, right? And it kind of gave me a feeling as a West Ham fan that we could beat anybody on our day. And that has always been the way. That stayed with me as the positive. That is the positive of watching West Ham. Number one, we will attack teams. Number two, we can beat anybody on our day. Never ever has watching West Ham involved sitting back, playing 8 behind the ball, and waiting, you know, hoping that the team don't hurt you and maybe going to try and nick a goal against the run of play at the end of a game. That has never been something that I've looked for from West Ham, which is why I hated the Kirbishley side. It's why I despised the Allardyce side, because when you talk about the West Ham way, that is the West Ham way. Attacking football, flair, can beat anyone on our day. Now, if that makes us flaky, in the words of David Moyes, let us be flaky. Bring on the flakes. Because that's what, personally, I want to see. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me in the comments what first attracted you to West Ham. I wonder how many young kids over the last couple of years have looked at, or at least the last year, you know, they're just getting interested in football. You know, maybe even taken along to a game at West Ham. And they've seen David Moyes line up in a defence-first formation, trying to nick a draw out of the jaws of victory. I wonder how many kids have turned into raving West Ham lunatics like happened to me back in the day. I bet there ain't many, let me tell you that. Maybe it'll happen with the next manager. Let's hope so. Anyway, that's me done. Sullivan, you got 2 options. I've given them to you clearly today. Take any of those 2 and you get my support. And I'm sure you get plenty of other support, other people's support as well. It doesn't have to be an expensive option, all right? Please, if you've enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel, Claret and Booze. Give the video a like and hit the bell notification icon. Until next time, see you soon and come on you irons.